I said, fear can be either real or it can be perceived. So sometimes the fear is only in our mind. We may not have even experienced something so traumatic, but we develop constructs in our mind that stop us from behaving in certain ways.
So today we are going to speak on a very different topic. I hope that we all have gone through this some or the other day in some phase of our lives, and that is the anxieties and fears of youngsters. We have some or the other fear that we are dealing with, and today we have Tulika Vadva ma'am with us, and we'll be discussing about different kinds of fears. So I spoke to my friends. I got a list of few most common fears and anxieties that we have most commonly in our lives. So let me introduce our guest for today first. We have Tulika Vadva ma'am. She's a professor at Delhi University. With this, she's also a blogger and also a book enthusiast. The creative corner of her blog is a great platform for children and adults to showcase their creative works. And along with that, it has also got a teacher's corner, which deals with various ideas and resources for teaching. So, thank you so much for being with us, ma'am.
Thank you, Rituja. And just one clarification, I'm not a professor, I'm an assistant professor. So the designation is, you're giving me far too much credit, like you're giving far too much credit to my blog. But thank you for that introduction.
Most commonly, youngsters learn to deal with their fears or these anxieties go away with time. But if remained untreated and if it's affecting life on a daily basis or anything that you do, then maybe that can become a problem.
Okay.
So I want to ask you, what is your idea of fear, anxiety, and phobia?
Right. Like you rightly said, that our experiences in our teenage and sometimes even earlier, so even young children can develop experiences, can have experiences which can lead to developing fear. Now, that fear can be real or it can be perceived. So, a fear is basically our response to a threatening situation. So, that threat can be real or it can be a perceived threat. So, it may not be rooted in reality, but just the experience of one traumatic experience can lead to us developing fear. And over a period of time, like you said, if it goes untreated, when we say untreated, we don't mean that it has to be professionally treated. We learn to overcome a lot of our fears on our own also. For instance, most people will overcome the fear of darkness. Young children are very afraid of going into the dark, basically. So, and that's a classic example of looking at fear, because why are we afraid of darkness? That uncertainty of what lies ahead. So, not knowing puts us in a state of fear. Now, if we are able to overcome that fear of darkness over a period of time, we are able to embark on other journeys. But if we don't overcome that fear, it leads to anxiety. And phobia would be where we are, where the magnitude of that fear is far larger than what you can handle on our own. So, in most cases, youngsters would develop coping mechanisms. And with those coping mechanisms, we overcome our fear, we overcome our anxiety. But where we are not able to develop that coping mechanism, that's where it becomes a phobia. And the anxiety stops us from functioning in our everyday life. So, where that happens, we say that we need either professional help or we need to speak to somebody else. So, what it will do is that it will stop you from living a full life. It means you will work around things. So if you have a fear and you don't want to, for instance, engage in certain experiences, you will design your life in avoiding those experiences. But that will stop you from experiencing one part of life. That's the way fear can have an impact on people's lives.
Okay, yes, and how can one like analyze what are their own fears and their own weaknesses?
So what I would say is that an inherent part of looking at fear is to keep going back and thinking about what you're doing in your life and what you are stopping yourself from doing in life. So, like I said, fear can be either real or it can be perceived. So, sometimes the fear is only in our mind. we may not have even experienced something so traumatic, but we develop constructs in our mind that stop us from behaving in certain ways. So an inherent part of recognizing your fears, that which is the first step. I mean, if you recognize your fears, if you accept your fears, only then you can learn to live beyond them. So to recognize them, you need to develop a practice of reflection on how your life is working. So some people will automatically sit and think about what I want to do and what I don't want to do, and why do I not want to do. When an opportunity comes to you, why do you not want to take that opportunity? So that is one way of recognizing your fear. Okay, so and if in case we use some basic techniques such as what we call the SWOT analysis, which people commonly talk about, which is strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats, and that helps us to overcome certain fears. By recognizing our strength, by recognizing our weaknesses, we overcome our fears.
Okay. And do you think that this will help, like analyzing your fears, or knowing that this is my weakness, or maybe I fear this thing? You think knowing this point will help?
Yes, definitely. Because, like I said, knowing is the first step. By accepting what you are not doing, by accepting why you are not doing something, you're moving towards a process where you decide whether you really want to move towards a particular direction, move in a particular direction. So, if you feel that, I have a fear and I can't personally overcome this may be deep seated. I may experience something 15 years ago, and even today it stops me from functioning fully. In that case, I will know that I need help. I need to go and meet somebody. I need to speak to somebody who's probably going to help me overcome this. So, recognizing and analyzing will definitely help. So, if you are able to overcome your fear on your own, you will definitely be able to go and face it once you recognize it. So if you have a strong willpower, or if you are able to rationalize to yourself, for instance, one of the ways to handle fears is to think about why am I afraid of this particular thing, which can be, like we said, darkness, it can be social interaction, it can be stage fright. I'm afraid of going on the stage. So you find ways. So if, let's say, somebody was afraid of going on stage or public speaking, what do, you go and speak on stage at places where nobody knows you, so you don't feel being ridiculed in front of an audience that you know very closely and you're likely to face again. Or you try to do a lot of rehearsal first in front of the mirror, or you do it in front of family and friends where you don't feel threatened. So you first encountered non-threatening situations and then you go into that threatened situation. So it's a step-by-step process. So knowing definitely helps. And when you feel that no, now I am not able to overcome this on my own, that's where you will need a specialist, or you will need a professional to help you out of that scenario. So even recognizing what can I do on my own and what do I need professional help for is also one aspect of knowing yourself better.
I completely agree to that. So we spoke about fear. Now, where does this fear come from? And over time, how does it transform?
Most of our fears are basically, it's a very cliched thing to say, but most of our fears are in our mind. So how do we start perceiving fear will probably be rooted in some childhood experiences. But at the same time, we need to recognize that society tells us to be afraid of certain things because we tend to conform to what society is telling us. So the uncertainty of breaking away from the social mold, or the uncertainty of hurting somebody close to you, all of these can lead to fears because you're afraid to step out of a relationship, you're afraid to be alone, you're afraid to break free, you're afraid to try different things which are not socially accepted. Sometimes our social circumstances lead us to fear what will happen if we try to challenge our social circumstances. But many a times these fears would have set in very early in life. It's childhood, or it is early experiences in school or in family which lead us to start developing these fears. Over a period of time, these fears become a part of us. So we stop questioning them. We no longer question that, we take it as a normal that, yeah, everybody is afraid of breaking the mold. Why should I be the one doing it? And we never challenge that. And here I think gender plays a very important role. A lot of young women are taught to not question, to just conform to what has been told to them, whether it is in their attire, whether it is in their careers. So, not to say that the pressures on men are any less, young boys, young men also go through a lot of pressures, body image. So, we have stereotypes of all of these things. So, and we start taking them for granted. So, when fear becomes a part of your normal, then that aspect that we're talking about, that we need to analyze, that we need to reflect on, that will never set in, because we've not recognized that something is wrong. So over a period of time, this becomes a part of your personality, and then it becomes very difficult to step out of that mold.
True. So I spoke with some of my friends and I got a list of 10 most common fears and anxieties. So anything that makes them anxious or anything that they fear since childhood. So I got 10 most common points. So can we discuss them one by one and also talk about how can we tackle them?
Okay, yeah, sure.
So the very first and very most common one is failure. We all fear to fail at anything, and this is a constant fear. So even if I go and do something, one thing I get good at it. Again, when I'm trying the other thing, I again have this fear that maybe I can fail in this, or maybe
True.
I'll not do good. So what is this kind of fear, the fear of failure?
So when you talk about the fear of failure, mm, you know, just try and see whether this fear of failure is coming from inside, whether it is I who's afraid of failure, or is it something that I'm afraid of failure in terms of what others will think about me. If I fail, will I be ridiculed? Will I not be accepted by friends, by family, by school, by teachers? So when we are growing up as a young child, who's the good girl or who's the good boy in class? Somebody who does well at everything. So this is the social stereotype of success, of achievement, that tells us that if you fail at something, it's not even worth trying. So we slowly stop trying new things that we feel that we will be not good at, or that I'm not sure of succeeding in this. So the fear of failure may be more socially driven, externally driven than coming from inside. Some fear of failure is good. We have to understand that uh, if you're afraid of failing, you will try harder to become successful at that particular thing. And if you're afraid of failing, your first attempt will be well prepared. So there are certain things. If you wanted to go bungee jumping, you should be afraid of failure. You better be prepared for it. So some amount of fear of failure will be good. It's only when it becomes pathological, where it is stopping you from trying new things, that's where we need to recognize that this is a problem.
So the next, again, one of the very most common fear is the fear of future. So
Yeah.
hello.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fear of future, that we call it as what's going to happen next.
Part of why we are afraid of future is because we feel the need to control what is happening around us. We want to know what lies ahead. We want to develop a formula. If we could, we would develop a formula and have some portion where we would know for sure that if I did this, I will definitely get that. But life doesn't work in that cause and effect manner. It doesn't work in that linear fashion. So probably knowing that there are only some elements of future that you can control. And like I was saying earlier, in some cases it is good to be fearful. Where it is good to at least try and be prepared for a more secure future. For instance, you would want to be prepared for a healthcare emergency. And the pandemic has taught us that some preparation will be required. We do need a backup plan. We do need to know that in case I don't have a job for 3 months, what will I do? If college is shut down for 3 months, what will I do? And all of these sort of tell us that we need to be prepared, at least at some level, for what lies ahead. At the same time, we need to recognize that we can't be prepared for everything. We can't really foresee what is going to happen in the future. So we work on a game of probability. The fear of future is more when we feel that the odds are against us, when we feel that probably we will not be able to do well enough. So probably preparation is likely to take care of fear of future. Another level of fear of future is where it's not the fear of uncertainty, it's a fear of being in a future which I'm not happy about. So where your future goals will be determined by others rather than self, you are more likely to be afraid of the future because you've taken decisions today that you feel are not in resonance with your being, with who you really are. So you did something because others were telling you to do it. So probably a plan of that kind where you foresee that I need to balance what others expect of me with what I expect of myself. So even in something as simple as career, it's important to have a stable career without a doubt. And your parents will always tell you to have a stable career. Your teachers will tell you to go in that. But do you let go of all your interests? You let go of all your wishes, all your desires? Is there a way of balancing the two? Probably, if you are able to find that, that fear of future will not be so great. I just want to add this one idea that it's important to recognize, I'm using your platform, Rutuja, to spread this word that it's important to recognize that it's fine to have fears and anxieties, and we do learn coping mechanisms, but sometimes we may not be able to develop those coping mechanisms. And when that point comes to seek professional help, then parents and children should not hesitate in seeking professional help. That stigma that is associated with going to a psychologist, that stigma which is associated, we don't go to a doctor only when there is serious illness. We go to them for fever, we go to them for headaches, we go to them for a variety of problems. Similarly, going to a psychologist does not reflect something that is endless, that is a label on you for all your life. So I feel that it is important to recognize that sometimes it's okay to take professional help. सब कुछ खुद नहीं कर सकते.